Hi, my name is Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford. It feels like it's been a very long time since we've talked to you. Hopefully, you guys have still been watching our sort of spin off filler episodes. But as far as real human life where we're actually present, we're here right now. This is a real timely, it is June 11th as we speak. And I'm very excited just to get back on the air, so to speak. And hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Had a since the last time we talked. It was before I had three kids. I had two kids at that point. Now I have three kids.
You
So
made it sound
that's
like you had all three kids at one time there for a second.
yeah. Since the last time we talked, I've had three kids, triplets, I guess. Um, no, so everything's great. We've gotten down to like I think a pretty good sleep schedule, and I'm getting back to getting a normal amount of sleep that I got before, which wasn't a lot, but I'm fairly good at managing uh, on like 5 hours of sleep or 6 hours. I don't get really much any more than that to my own, uh, through my own, I don't know, workings and stuff.
I used to be so good at navigating not much sleep. I just didn't sleep as well either anyway. But like my roommate in college, we always felt like one of us was literally always up at all times. And I don't think it was that far off. And so in my head, I'm still that way. But then I watch my clock and I'm like, no, I sleep a solid 8 hours every night. It would kill me. It will kill me someday when I go back and I lose sleep over a child or something. I'll be all amped, think I can handle it, and then it'll kill me. Is probably what'll happen. But I'm excited for the day. I'm glad the baby's home.
I was telling you one day, yeah, baby's good and everything, great. I remember telling you one day that I got like an hour of sleep that day, and you're like, how does anybody even take that? I was like, well,
You do.
kind of there's like an hour of just fatigue setting in, then after a while it just forgets that it's tired and just keeps going,
I
kind of
forgot
like
to
a
tell
quirk.
you that day. So I've been on a MythBusters kick in my spare time. It just makes good background noise. I don't have to pay attention to it, but I love it. Love MythBusters. And they did an
Yeah.
episode, and I remembered it one time where they studied like sleeping. It was on a like a crab boat or something like that, and sleeping in short bursts. Like I want to say it is for 10 minutes every hour or something like that, versus none at all. And like even the 10 minutes every hour was like incrementally, undeniably like 10 times as good as not sleeping at all. So it's like, all right, maybe if he spreads his 1 hour out, maybe he's good. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
No, I
I
did.
I
I took a
confirmed
20
for it. I went
minute.
and
I took a
researched for
good
you, and
20-minute power
you're gonna
nap the
live.
other day.
I, I can't take naps, but again, I'm very spoiled at the moment. I don't usually have good reasons to take naps, like staying up with children or anything like that. I'm impressed with a good sleep schedule, though. I didn't realize they, at this young of an age, that they already kind of got into a schedule. I figured it took
I mean,
months,
it's not like he still wakes up like every 3 hours, but
but at
that's
least, I
still
mean,
good.
that's 3 hours. That's great. Three,
Yeah.
three
He's
is
sleeping right now,
better than one. Is that we recorded at a slightly different time, and I couldn't tell. I was like, maybe Chris just has the opportunity to sleep more tonight, and I'm interrupting it for a podcast. Like priorities. Listen, now that you finally got a
Yeah.
spare hour to yourself, what if we talk about television? My favorite. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad everything is going well so far. I'm glad we get to be back here and talk. I imagine we'll still have a couple like off and on weeks over the next couple weeks, but pretty excited to get back behind a microphone. What you been up to this week? What's your week look like?
Just working from home again. I'll be working from home until like July 20 something at least. And yeah, just taking care of newborn and taking care of two other kids. We're still doing some quarantining. We don't go out all of that much. But I'm back to doing like old habits, like going to vintage stock. And I've been trying to go to Hot Topic and get the Korra Chase pop because I realized I didn't even know I have the Aang Avatar State Chase pop, which is worth like $300 now.
What? That's wild.
Just yeah,
Is
to
the
think
one
I almost auctioned that off.
is the one at
Not
Hot
auction,
Topic? Is
almost
that like an
raffled that off.
exclusive one? I'm not familiar enough with Pops. Is it
Yeah.
exclusive to Hot Topic? That's it's
Yes.
outrageous. It's crazy to me. But
Yeah.
hey,
So I keep calling them like Hey, do you have Legend of Korra pops yet? I'm like, no, we don't. Okay.
I was offended as a woman. I'm a proud Asian American woman.
Hey, lady, we'll tell you when we get
Uh,
Adam Family's
Adam's
values.
Family Values.
Another
That's what it
John Mulaney
was.
joke.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, now that we got our John Mulaney quote out of the way, I still been kind of quarantined and paranoid in almost every way, but I missed going out to eat a lot. So we've been going out to eat like a shameless, like, oh well, we're supporting the local economy. You know, we got to pitch in and go to this. There's like a Mexican restaurant down the road. I feel like we go there like twice a week. Now it's bad. No, I mean it's good. It's delicious, but it's a terrible habit. I totally interrupted your week to talk about my favorite taco place. Also,
No,
my bad.
that's pretty much my week. Besides, things going outside the world, but we'll get into a little bit more of that later.
Break into the deeper stuff. Same. I've been working inside and going out to eat. I haven't broken all the old habits yet, but I am fixing for like a video game spend. I haven't been able to go out and buy stuff like I do. It's about time, but I'll get there. It'll come. I'm a little paranoid. Let's talk about news, or I think maybe we should put like news in quotations. I think is fair.
Yeah.
Just be careful what you
Yes,
read on the internet. But in this case, it's fun,
true,
so
yeah.
let's do it.
So Avatar Netflix news. So we should say congratulations to Avatar Last Airbender, 15-year-old show, #1 on Netflix for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
It's the first thing that shows up on my Netflix, and that's only awesome because
Yeah.
it's not my Netflix. I share it with somebody else, so that means that other person also has to see it every time they log in. I'm like, yeah, I didn't do that.
And there's whole new things of fans. My channel's growing a little bit more, even though I haven't given it as much attention lately. But I think
Just
more people
tell
are listening to the
everybody you
podcast.
upload
so
one
thanks
episode a
anyone for
week
that.
at a minimum, bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, Avatar's #1 again, and it's weird. Like the most random. Everyone tries to jump on trends, right? So now everyone's into Avatar, which is I sound like an
You
old
sound
man.
like a bully.
Man. Like, whoa, you think Avatar's your show now? I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't think of another show as the best show of all time until I was, I still don't, anyway. But still think it's the best show.
It is funny because
but,
I keep seeing memes, and it always comes back to Iroh just being like, "Be nice to everybody and let everybody love it," or whatever.
Yeah.
It always Iroh
But,
always saves everything.
Random websites who did not give a crap about Avatar cartoons, really, like Men's Health. I've seen 3 articles on Men's Health about Avatar: The Last Airbender in the last 2 weeks. Like, what are y'all doing?
I don't
and then
know I don't know what the segue is into Men's Health, but good work, Avatar, I guess.
Yeah. And then Screen Rant, and I'm just like, one thing I don't like Screen Rant. They got garbage stories and stuff. But anyway,
congratulations, Avatar, and we're jacked that everybody is watching it again. It's crazy because like we're going to talk about Avatar, and then I was thinking about this the other day. Is like we're going to talk about Avatar, we're going to talk about Korra, and then I genuinely hope that our talks about Korra are interrupted by live action Avatar. Like we're going to hit the pinnacle. It's going to be great.
Oh yeah. Also, so I didn't mention before. I've been working on a video for live action Korra, and I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about the cast put together, as if it's actually going to do something.
Maybe you'll spark the idea. You will start the movement.
Yeah, I feel more confident about this casting because one thing, they're not all the kids and all not going to grow.
That's true.
It's so weird. I feel like I cast this one girl as Asami, and I realized that she was like somewhat she had some issues with her. She was controversial, right? Her name's Kelsey Chow. I cast her as Asami, and then I realized that she was in a couple of these other movies playing a. Sorry, I thought I heard the baby crying. Anyway, so
you can hear that through a
saw that
headphone. That's like a super dad skill, right? That's amazing.
I saw that she was in some. She's half Asian, like half white, But I saw she was in some other movies playing like Native Americans, and I thought, that's weird. And then I looked it up, and like there's other Native American actors who are just like, that's not right. She shouldn't be doing that. And then like one of those Native American actors, I casted another role in in it, and I was like, well, now I can't have this girl in this. Like the cast isn't going to get along together. None of them are going to like her.
Individually, it made sense, but when you brought it together, it fell apart.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I got to recast her. Sorry, you're out.
You didn't make the cut because of chemistry. That's good. You're thinking like a basketball coach, and I like that approach. Your first casting video did really well too, so that's pretty exciting. Especially that it did really well. What, 2 years ago? Well, now Avatar's the number one show.
Feels like 2 years ago. Yeah.
And so, that is fantastic. I look forward to watching your cast video and Googling every single name that shows up. Is there one name in there? Is there a single person in there that I'm going to recognize?
I think so. But yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, the thing I loved about doing the Avatar one was that I learned a lot about a lot of Asian actors, because Avatar, spans a lot of it's influenced by a lot of Asian culture and everything. And one thing I realized, the big difference between Legend of Korra and Avatar is that Legend of Korra doesn't have nearly as much Asian influence. I mean, if you think about the books, book 1 takes place in Republic City, and so there's some Asian influence there, but they're come away in technology. It's not like older Asian influence.
It's maybe more like homogenous and mixed with everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mixed with 1920s United States, stuff like that. And then book 2 takes place in the South Pole and the North Pole and the spirit world, and so a lot of that has more. Water tribe stuff are more influenced by indigenous cultures, Native Americans, other Inuits, other indigenous people. And then book 3 is more globe-trotting again. And the book, but then we have a lot, there's just a lot more indigenous cultures and Native American culture influence in Korra, which makes sense. Korra, the water tribes are more depicted as that than, say, Aang, who's more depicted as like a monk. So that's one of the random. Because like I looked at the cast, like, man, this cast. Like I've looked up, so many Native American actors, which is great. Learning a lot more about them.
So, that now I'm just curious because even when I see a face that I recognize in your video, I'll see a face and I'll be like, I know that guy from, and then I won't know what I know him from, so I'll still have to Google this name that I vaguely remember and just go through IMDb every time. But I will learn a lot when I watch your video. I will broaden my cinematic knowledge, and that's good for me. Maybe. It may not be. But I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, the actual article that you found.
Yes. Yeah, so back to Avatar Netflix news from Avatar Last Airbender. So there's been this recent news from the website We Got This Covered, which usually they do not have it covered. They're not the most reputable website. They're a popular website, but they're like,
that was like a John Mulaney joke in itself. It's like, which they did not have it covered.
Yeah. So they mentioned. This article pretty much says Netflix live-action Avatar: Last Airbender reportedly features LGBT characters. So it says, according to sources close to WGTC, which is the acronym for We Got This Covered, the same ones who told us that the Snyder Cut of Justice League is coming to HBO Max and Percy Jackson TV series is in development, Netflix live-action Avatar: Last Airbender adaptation will allegedly feature not one, but several original LGBT characters. Anyway, and it goes on to say, of course, the universe isn't no stranger to diversity, because The Last Airbender featured a multitude of strong female characters, and Legend of Korra, of course, featured lesbian characters and stuff like that. But so I really believe that this will happen, but I don't believe them. I guess.
It'll happen, but not because they said so.
Yeah. Like, the other stuff they said that they claim is their proof. That stuff was. It's like, you shoot something's gonna stick. All right, you throw enough crap at the wall, something's gonna stick.
We all been asking for the
Uh,
Snyder cut. Like we knew it was coming eventually.
yeah, yeah, that was like months. I think people were talking about Snyder Cut in November. Like, yeah, it's gonna happen. Um, and so, like, with regards to this, me knowing and following Mike and Brian, they are very progressive minded. You know, they 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 really don't care about other people's opinions. Like, they'll do things because they feel they want to do it. You know, same, they did it with Legend of Korra, featuring a lesbian character as your main character in a Y7 TV kids show was unheard of. They set new ground. Granted, they did it in a very kind of timid way, but nonetheless, it was canon. It was done, and so now they don't have those same shackles as a Y7 kids program. And even if they did, like, even if they were doing a Y7 kids program today, they could still do it. But now they're on Netflix, it's live action. I totally see them adding in characters within the LGBTQ community. The thing is, I don't think that they would just make like a side character one. I think they would possibly change a current main character to one, because I don't see them as being like, oh, we need to have someone, you know, just be a token one. I think they're more so of the mind of like, no, we can just make one of our main characters one, or just not a newly established character. And the thing about Mike and Brian is that they do not care if they offend people or anything.
Well, and yeah, I do. The wording in there was kind of strange to me, because it said, what was it, like something like original characters.
Yeah,
that makes, and this is one of those times where it's like they probably don't know what they're talking about, so I'm not going to read anything into it, because that sounds like that almost sounds like it's not even a side character. It sounds like they're just going to invent a new character and be like, this one's gay, and then just put it in there.
Yeah.
But that's way less fun, and I also don't believe that that's how they would go about it. It's way more fun to try to decide which of the main characters they would pick to make changes to, essentially. But which we can incorporate into our larger discussion this week, if you would care.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. So I figure we'll go some of the main characters on who they might change their sexual orientation to. First off, let's take off the ones I think won't be it. First of all, I think Aang won't be it, because Mike and Brian shipped the crap out of Katang. And I don't think they'll want any type of. I think if anything with this Netflix show, they will strengthen Katang and like make other things weaker.
Because you just scared away our two listeners. They're both gone. Jamie and whoever else. They're gone now.
Yeah, trust me. The live action show is not going to make Zutara happen. Like, I've seen so many people like, the show's already perfect. The only way they can make it, they might as well just make Zutara happen to make it different. So I'm like, that's not gonna. You stop
it. You stop it, fans.
Yeah, so I don't think Aang would. I don't think they would change Aang at all.
It would be hard to picture, and yet if they did it, it'd be like, you know what, good job. But no, I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it'll happen. It would just be a pretty amazing, wild change if they did.
So then you move to Katara, because of the whole Katang thing. I don't think they will change Katara either.
There's so much of that like, I'm trying to think of canon, and maybe they don't care about it as much as I think that they do. And so it's kind of hard for me to decide, like, well, would they say that the Netflix is canon over the cartoon, or like which one would supersede the other? I'm trying to weigh in my mind like how much they would care, and the answer is they probably wouldn't. They'll probably do what feels artistically appealing to them, and then not care so much about what is and isn't canon. But like, I'm saying that, like, if you made Katara lesbian, it would change such a big chunk of the canon. But you know, maybe they don't care. Maybe it didn't matter. But I would still say they probably wouldn't.
I think they love the characters they made, and so I don't think they would. Like, they love Aang and Katara's kids, Bumi, Tenzin, Kaya, and so I don't think they. I mean, granted, Katara could still be lesbian and she can still be bi and have kids with Aang and stuff, but you can't really explore that when they got together at 12 and 14 and pretty much stayed together the rest of their life. So I don't think, in order for those three to be born, Kaya, Tenzin, and Bumi, I don't think they deviate from being together. And at that point, why even make? You'd just be putting a tag on Katara and not kind of exploring it.
Yeah, agreed.
And then we get to Sokka. Sokka is an interesting one because canon-wise, it wouldn't change anything because he doesn't have kids or anything. Like, we don't know that much about Sokka after the events of the war and everything like that, besides what the comic books tell us. The only reason why I think they wouldn't, because I feel like Sokka's whole character is like more of a ladies man, like, and he's kind of misogynistic to start it off with, and I don't think he would kind of be that way if if he was gay. And he's you imagine like all the girls that Sokka was attracted to in the series.
He's just
like
compensating for conflicted feelings, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, there was Suki, Yue, he even smiled at Ty Lee, all the girls in that class.
He even smiled at Ty Lee. That's not a basis of evidence.
It wasn't a smile like, oh, she's cute type of smile. It wasn't just like a smile. It was a smile and a friendly wave.
That's okay. I'll give it to you. That's fine. Yeah. I would just, if Katara and Aang are like, when we did the ship it, we did like absolutely, maybe, and then probably or something like that. I don't remember how we worded it, but it's like I'd at least put Sokka on the middle. Like, it's very, very plausible. It would not seem to have like serious unintended consequences later on in canon. So I would at least say it's plausible.
It's funny. I just on my tablet. I just saw a comment come up. I got a notification. I get YouTube comment notifications, and it's from the random person said, "Y'all seriously shipping Zutaro when Zuka is right there?" Which Zuka is the Sokka and Zuko.
Which I was hoping Zuko would be the next one because of all the ships that I had never thought about during that episode. That one was probably the most fun or the most interesting to think about. Other than maybe Tylee and May. Was that the other one?
Yeah. So on to Zuko. Even though Zuko has a daughter named Izumi, I could totally see that still happening. But then Zuko realizing like, oh, I'm bi. I'm into lots of things. Although I don't know when you explore that in the show. And the only reason I'd say they could be Zuko is because I feel like Mike and Brian might not just want a side character to be gay. They might want like a main character, and I feel like Zuko could fit that mold. Like, oh, we don't know if Zuko ever got married or not. We just know he had a kid, and it would support a theory that I'm starting to really like, that Azula is the mother of Izumi. No weird southern stuff, but that Azula, that he adopted her from Azula.
Interesting. Hold on, I gotta wrap my mind around this for a second. Who would Azula? Who would the father be? Because
I don't know.
Azula would have already been like West Chan. What a moron! No, because she would have already been like well out of her marbles. But then again, I'm not very far into comics, so I don't know enough about her eventual fate to have any dispute with that. But I would at a minimum say I would have, not only would I have no issue, but I would be wildly entertained to see Zuka become a thing in the Netflix series. I don't think that's how they would do it, even if it is Zuko and Sokka and or whatever. I don't think that's how they would do it so much as, Zuko is going through so much emotional turmoil throughout the whole series. It seems to me like it would be pretty easy to explore like sexuality confusion or trying to get in touch with his own feelings in there as well. Like I could see that, and I would be entertained by Zuko, but in general, yeah, I'll give Zuko at least a plausible.
And one of the other reasons why I think it could be a boy character is I feel like it's a little cliche for girls to be. I feel like gays portrayed in media are more likely to be girls and guys. I feel like that's for some reason it's some weird.
You said more likely for girls than guys.
Yeah, I mean, think about Korra, Asami, She-Ra has a lot of depictions of it. I don't want to ruin She-Ra for anybody who hasn't finished it yet. Great show. There's Supergirl. It seems like something that's more associated with female characters, and my guess and the reason that is that they think the male ego can't handle that, and maybe some male egos can't handle that. They can't for some reason relate to a character who's not attracted to the opposite sex.
That would not surprise me.
And so they're like, hey, I can relate to Korra. She's
I could see men being like like the male audience within the target audiences being like a more stubborn or more finicky audience maybe. I don't know. You present good examples, but even then, that's a narrow scope, right? We just talked about anime. I don't know what She-Ra is, but
She-Ra, the Princess of Power. It's like He-Man, but She-Ra has on cartoons on Netflix.
I did see that cartoon on Netflix. I haven't actually. I personally find He-Man a horrible TV show because it came from toys, right? Anything that started as a toy became a TV show for the most part is bad. But I'm surprised that you say it's good. I'll have to watch it at some point.
I liked it a lot. It got better.
We did have a limited scope to work with that you've mentioned there, but it is fair that it's much easier for me to think of lesbian female characters than gay male characters. Could be something to it.
And then so a couple other characters. Actually, they could totally make Azula and Ty Lee a thing. That was probably very plausible.
I thought we wanted May and Ty Lee. I thought that was where we were all getting.
I mean, hey, I like that ship better. But
it's a really interesting ship to me. I don't know.
I like that ship better, but I just think that Azula Ty Lee thing makes the trail hurt even more.
That's true. To have a strong instant story impact at a key moment, that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Let's see. And then those are pretty much the only main characters I think they would consider. Side characters, I mean, I think they'll be perfectly fine switching.
We didn't mention Toph.
We haven't talked about Toph.
Yeah, I gotta talk about Toph still because that seems like a plausible to me.
I think so too, because Toph raised both of her daughters on her own. It makes sense story wise that she never got married to any of those guys, and she just not into them.
It seems it seems like it would be again another one where you could easily do it to where it both had an impact on the story you were telling in the way that they meant it to, but without sort of disrupting larger canon. So yeah, I'd say that seems very plausible. Man, Jamie should have been here for this. She'd have ideas that we're not even thinking of. She'd be.
I thought about waiting, but I was like, let's just go ahead. It's fairly recent news story now.
And it's timely, and there's other things we're going to tie in that are timely. But I do I almost feel like a twinge of guilt for talking about it without her. But
I know
other main characters. We've talked about air nomads.
I can't wait to message her and tell her that hey, we spent a whole segment of the recent podcast
just shipping people. It's great, and you missed it. We talked before. You mentioned, I think, is in a book about like air nomad society being more open. So I was trying to think of like what would be an interesting cultural story to tell along with it. And so again, I don't know enough about their histories, but like, all right, well, would it be really sort of jarring to see Zuko be gay culturally at his status?
Yeah, within the Fire Nation would be Fire Lord Sozin outlawed same-sex relationships.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's in Turf Wars when Kaya goes over all the nations. So yeah, that would be a story point.
That alone could be like enough sort of fuel to like, hey, well, Zuko's already sort of the antithesis to all these other things, Fire Nation. Why not tack on one more? Just kind of going through all those in my mind is like, all right, well, what about Toph would be another one where it seems
Earth
like
Kingdom,
family status.
Earth Kingdom was really, family status. Yeah, Earth Kingdom was stubborn. Also, Kyoshi had to like fight, for the rights because Kyoshi was bi. And they mentioned how Kyoshi couldn't necessarily make all the change that she wanted to make.
And she also wasn't in like a wealthy diplomat family, and she was also the Avatar, which is like two more good reasons to not bother her about it. But it seems to lend maybe more potential to Toph. Just I don't want to call it like breaking down a barrier, or at least defying expectations, I guess.
Yeah, and Water Tribes were like fine with it, but they're like, just keep it to yourself. Like, because Water Tribe is so enriched and engulfed in their culture and their traditions and everything. They don't like things changing their traditions. As we see with Master Paku, right? He didn't want to train a girl.
I wonder if you could point any fingers like, well, again, I wish I had more evidence. I need to make it all the way through the comics. I've only got through the Search and the Promise, but to gather some of this information is like, well, I think the most progressive groups of any of these would be like in cases where they were more sort of separate from one another or split off from one another, where they had chance to develop at different rates in different ways. Something like, well, the Earth Kingdom is huge. There's surely parts of the Earth Kingdom where it's more common or more accepted or whatever.
I mean, there's different culture. Yeah, different cultures all around the Earth Kingdom.
Within the Earth Kingdom, it's a huge place. So that's kind of fun to just sitting here rolling through my head on which ones would sort of be the most controversial and therefore the most entertaining to us as an audience. So yeah, that's kind of lightened the pun intended, lightened my fire for voting Zuko as being highly plausible, or at least wanting it to be plausible. If I had to make a bet,
it would be Zuko. Just because I don't think they would want to make some random side character that, and I think they already made a female character gay with Korra, and so they would do it with the male character, and Sokka is, to me, that goes a little bit too much against Sokka's character, but I think it fits well with Zuko.
It does go against Sokka's character, but it's another one where it's like, oh well,
you could do it.
Yeah. It happens in real life that way too, I suppose. Yeah. I gotta be honest, I don't even know if you could change the character that much. I think you could even get away with just human personality is hard to rein in sometimes, or that sounded bad, hard to understand sometimes, or wrap my mind around sometimes, but either one. So the best part about Zuko would be like, what a way to come back at the Zutara fans. Oh, you guys want us to do something different with Zuko and his relationships? Okay, well, we got an idea. You guys are gonna love this. Oh, that would be amazing.
We love you guys, the Tara fans.
We do.
Whoever taking jabs, they're friendly jabs.
Chris, you and I don't like always get along on things, but what I love about the Zutaras, it's one of the few things that we like both sort of cling to pretty hard in the against it way, and so I don't know, it's unifying on the podcast. But yes.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that someone else also liked the podcast name, The Great Divide.
I want to change my name to it so bad. We've done so much work, but I'm like, it's whatever. I don't know. Could happen. We'll take a vote.
Someone's gonna we're gonna change our name, and someone years from now is gonna find our podcast and they'll say like The Great Divide, but they'll listen to episode 1, be like, "Welcome to the Avatar Last Podcasters." We're like, did The Great Divide just steal all of their?
They just set the computer on fire and just leave the room. I am torn because I always believe that kind of brand consistency is important. But at the same time, that is such a great podcast name. I think we should let our 10 fans decide. All 10 of them. And I always make jokes about that, but our Facebook page is a few hundred likes. I'm impressed every time I look at it.
I forgot to say that. Yeah, thanks for anyone who's been liking and following our Facebook page. We are up to like 512 follows on Facebook.
And
So
that that's people going out of their actual way to like, because it's not like we're advertising
yeah,
it. It's not popping up in their feed. People are finding other ways and reasons to go there and voluntarily click like, and that makes me pretty flattered. Thank you very much, everybody.
yeah. And and thanks to anybody who subscribed lately. I passed 3,000 subscribers like a week ago.
You
So
owe
yeah,
them
thanks
a
for
new video, Chris. You owe them.
I do. I'm working on one, like I mentioned before. So
I'm excited to see that one. So on the live action changes, we got through one portion, but I think you had another suggestion, another direction you wanted to potentially bring up.
yeah, so we're gonna talk about a couple other possible live action changes. And so we talked about changing characters' sexual orientation, but there's another factor of changing characters that's changing races of characters or things like that. And let me before I say this, after Last Airbender, very diverse show. They pretty much have representation of every race except for white and black people. Although I can make the case that there's like one random black person I saw throughout the show who was like one of those Aangs who tried to pretend to be him to get on to boxing say.
No
But
kidding.
besides that, they have Native American culture represented, Inuits, indigenous people, so many parts of Asia, and not just Eastern Asia, but Western Asia, even some Northern African, which they're black too. I'm not gonna, they're black. Even if they don't, even if people don't identify. Um, and and so many other places,
Do you think that
Middle
the
East,
Asian
things like that.
influence is that the source of the Asian influence is to like tie some of the martial artistry into the bending styles, or is there another reason, or maybe no reason whatsoever?
Honestly, I, I posted recently like Avatar is freaking miracle. Honestly, like two of the whitest guys from America made a show about Eastern philosophies and martial arts and other cultures and and they didn't even they could have done what other people do and put white characters in those positions. You always have like that white savior character and like random things like Last Samurai and other stuff. And they didn't do that.
Everybody
They
is diverse, but then Aang is white, and that's the show right there. No, but
yeah.
think of how much meaning could have gone out the window with something that small, though. They did such a thorough, detailed job of making it diverse.
Yeah. Um, and I was just saying how much and like how much respect and love they showed towards it. Like they took their time. Like think about them episode about clearing the chakras, about Aang clearing his chakras. Like that is some direct stuff from that belief and philosophies. Um, like man, Avatar really is like a miracle show, and it was on Nickelodeon, a show about genocide and war and stuff like that.
I like
Which a lot
Nickelodeon, but Nickelodeon maybe didn't deserve Avatar.
they didn't. It's to me, it's more of a Cartoon Network show. Like Cartoon Network would push the boundaries on some other shows.
They do.
Like how
Usually
they,
not in such respectful directions, but yeah, they do. And again, even down to, having distinct martial artistries tied to bending styles, like, there's a lot of effort in there that could have easily just been sort of washed over with crappy animation.
yeah. I mean, actually, the whole show really starts with I forget which one of them was watching a documentary on people, on like Inuit people chopping at ice, and people come in and like invading them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well these will be the water people, and these will be the fire people," and then they're like, "Well, might as well add some earth and some air people," and then it went from there. So really, it started all off with the Inuit culture, surprisingly. But but my point being, that I was getting to before, like, what if they changed pretty much what if they added like black or white people there? Specifically, what if they added black people there? And the only reason why I say this is because of uh, recent things going on in our world, and granted, and some words from Brian Konietzko. That's how you actually say it, I think. Just about everything going on So if you don't know, haven't paying attention to the United States, if you're like from out of the, if you live outside the United States and you're looking at the news, things probably seem really dire, and things are a little dire to a certain point. But it looks like a war zone a lot here. Like when I watch like protesters in like China or something, I'm like, man, that looks rough. And then I'm watching protesters here, and I'm like, holy crap, that
That also, yeah.
uh, yeah. Like I can't imagine from the outside looking in how terrible we look, and for good part we should look terrible. Like I'm not proud of seeing cops mow over people and protesters. I'm not proud of cops throwing over an old man, watching him bleed out, and keep walking. But anyway, back to what I was saying before. So United States, a lot of stuff is happening. Um, there's always been tension, and we're dealing with the global pandemic. We're all in our houses, and just there's just been like a domino effect of things happening. Um, you had that person who was killed just jogging, black guy who was killed just jogging. Um, you had the white woman calling the cops on the black guy who was bird watching, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Like her words were like, "I'm gonna call the cop and say the African American male is harassing me, threatening my life." And he's just bird watching. Um, and then George Floyd being killed on camera, uh, and uh, and so like you know these things happen, but these things haven't had the same effect that they've had before. And so we've seen mass protests across the United States. Most for the most part, they're all peaceful protests. There's a small part of violent protests, but you feel this. I feel a good sense in the air that things are like changing. I feel like I really feel like that video, like it was one of the only videos that I think really made a lot of white America just look and be like, holy crap, like people, what black people are telling us this whole time is is true. This man was lying on the ground and officer has a neck on him. He's died right in front of us.
I think that the
Like for
the sort of closeness, in previous videos of incidents where there have been video. Thank heavens we have such easy access to video now, or how much of this stuff still goes undocumented. But something about like the kind of close intimacy of the video, like how just it's literally much closer. It's clear, it's long, and it just makes it much harder for anyone to ignore and just look past.
yeah,
Finally.
yeah, which is like for me, like that video, it was hard to watch, definitely without a doubt. But it was another video. Like I didn't feel any because I don't need additional proof. I didn't, and I'm not saying you did or not. I don't like anytime I see a cop killing a black person or any black person getting killed on the news. I'm like, well, there's racism involved, whether
It's
it's
not a
overt
new
racism
revelation to you,
or
or you
yeah,
like having your come to Jesus moment or something.
yeah. Like I've always been vocal and active, against these things. It didn't take that video to do it, but I do think for a large majority of white people joining that movement now, speaking up, that video did it. And I watched the service of Reverend Al Sharpton talked about it, and he was like, George was a normal guy, and and God uses, God would use, situations, and he'll make good from evil, right? And he was like, George was a normal person. If he was, you know, rich or famous, people would think that we're all making a big deal out of it because he's rich and famous. But no, he was just a regular, everyday black person. Like that's, and so seeing people's reactions to that makes the impact feel even greater. Um, and yeah, so I'm just seeing like way more vocal support, seeing way more people not shy about saying Black Lives Matter. Before it was just like oh no, you only say Black Lives Matter if you just really on it. Like now I'm seeing way more people, and companies are coming out and doing it. The NFL had an apology about blackballing Colin Kaepernick.
A, a,
And so I
a,
have a
a
weird
kind of a light apology, in my opinion. But what it
yes,
was a real apology, but a light apology. I just want to
yeah,
jump in real quick and say that I actually think I'm not trying to paint the pandemic any kind of silver lining, but I think it helps that we're all, I mean, we all been stuck at home.
yeah,
Social media activity during the pandemic across all the major social mediums was at an all-time high. And so when this video came out and hit it, I mean, it hit everybody all at once. And so in that sense, that was a boon for this movement, this momentum that has been gained.
yeah. And the reason why I'm talking about it here, I mean, not only because I'm black and I go through these things. Like every black person has a story about some type of racial injustice done to them. That I feel like every black person has a story where they're like 2 degrees away from being killed by the police for a child. Like I had a story one time of this guy accused me and my friends of stealing his lawnmower. He threatened to call the cops. He was really like cursing at us and everything. And like we didn't, we just came back from the park. Like that's where we were at. This white dude. He's like, I got witnesses. And then the neighbor is like, yeah, we saw them three. We're like, what, what the heck? That's not us. And this other person came out that was like, no, this little white boy stole it. In fact, he hid it over here, and they went and found it. Like, how are there witnesses to say that we did this?
Thank God
Like,
that the mower was found. Just you can see that being the type of thing that could have incited a lot of problems and a lot of issues.
yeah, imagine him. You know, like I said, you're like 2 or 3 degrees away from getting a terrible altercation with
Imagine
someone.
that
So
guy hanging on to that conviction and not having found the lawnmower or any reason not to believe that other person.
yeah. Um, and so again, the reason why I'm talking about it here because Mike, like I mentioned before, Mike and Brian are really progressive, and I feel like they haven't done enough. I only get that sense because when I read Mike's words here, he says on Instagram, says, "Dear fellow white people," which I, I've been loving how direct people have been lately with this. It says, "We can't continue to ignore the racial oppression that we benefit from. One by one, we have to use our privilege to help dismantle the oppressive system from the inside until we aren't privileged anymore. But in order to do so, we need to be vocal and we need to pick sides publicly and privately. If you're worried that standing up for other humans who receive the same rights, freedoms, and protections that we do will put a target on your back, attracting the kinds of trolls, white supremacists, and their apologists, which in the end is the same thing, who will undoubtedly be spewing their attacks, lies, and warped justifications for racism in the comments below and on any post of mine to follow, keep in mind that we as white people have the luxury of putting a tiny, inconvenient target on our backs when we choose to. Black people don't have that luxury. They don't get to make the choice. They are profiled, targeted, marginalized, terrorized, brutalized, unfairly incarcerated, and murdered in broad daylight in the United States without recourse to justice, just for existing as themselves. And don't use the looting, erupting, and the protests as a lazy dismissal of the systemic racial oppression and domestic terrorism that leads to this kind of unrest. Let me, so I'm trying to imagine. Um, Before you express shock and dismay at people disrespecting property, stop and try to imagine what it must feel like for your society to have no respect for and to place no value on your very life. Try to imagine being trapped in a system so degrading and deliberately unfair that it would drive people to riot in the streets just to be heard. If you're white like I am, you don't have to try these things. You get to choose to. And even then, all we can do is imagine it. But if you endeavor to be a good person, if you claim to be a decent human being, you do have to try. And no, I don't condone violence, but that's easy for me to say. My back isn't against the wall. I'm not being threatened. But you know who does condone and incite violence? Trump. Anyway, we'll go into goes into some other things which I just completely agree with. Um, and then he says, um, to listen, learn, accept. We are all inherently guilty. Change. This is part of growing up, of evolving and improving as a person. The fairy tale we were fed growing up in white America creates a very real, very destructive, and very deadly reality for millions of our fellow citizens and humans. stand up for what is right, what is obvious, own up to our own biases and complicity, hold those in our families, workplaces, and communities accountable for their passive and active racism. Educate yourself, learn how to be a good ally to the oppressed. We're going to mess up along the way, even with the best intentions. We'll make mistakes, and we'll get called out for our ignorance. No one enjoys that, but we deserve it. We are ignorant, and that's part of learning we need to do. And that's the minuscule burden to bear compared to what Black people, Native people, and people of color have to endure while existing in the United States. And if what I've written ruins your childhood because you somehow thought your favorite animated TV show was a haven for racism and you're shocked to learn otherwise, then firstly, I would say you didn't pay close attention to the themes explored in that show. And secondly, having your childhood ruined is also called growing up. That's becoming an adult. I sincerely believe you can do it. You can start today. It's a long, slow, uncomfortable process, and I'm still in the middle of it myself. So, yeah, I really did love those words from Mike. I loved all the words, but he says, I'll re-say that I think it's funny because it's true. And if any of what I've written ruins your childhood, he put in quotations, ruins your childhood, because you somehow thought your favorite animated TV show was a haven for racism, and you're shocked to learn otherwise, then firstly, I would say you didn't pay very close attention to the themes explored in that show.
I was gonna say I think you'd have to try really hard to force the show's message the wrong direction. Really hard.
Yeah. And it's funny because I really wish I could like interview Mike and Brian because we've talked about before about the specific scene when Zuko's confronting his father. He says like, growing up we were taught that Fire Nation was the greatest civilization on Earth, and our war was a way of sharing our successful world. What a credible lie that is! Like the world hates us. And I feel like what Brian says here is like the fairy tales we were fed growing up in white America create a very real, very destructive, and very deadly reality for millions of our fellow citizens and humans. Like that is, to me, that's like a 1-for-1 thing. Like I feel like his wording there wasn't unintentional when they were writing that episode.
He was very deliberate and insightful. Well, it applied then too. I wasn't really thinking ahead as much as just America in general, even at that time. I hope this is the point where you are okay with me doing this. I'm going to say that like the two biggest things or takeaways I would have from all this is that remember that there's a lot of ways that you can help and contribute and to build on the momentum that has been created. I know sometimes it seems like it's either just protest or social media and that those are your choices, but it's not. There's so many ways that you can contribute and build on the great momentum that has been built based on recent events. And then number two, and maybe more importantly, and it's like the absolute bare minimum and maybe the most impactful thing that I've seen reach and touch people is just remember that it's not enough to be non-racist. It's not enough to just be ambivalent and in your own world and think, hey, it's not part of me and I'm not bothering anybody. The bare minimum is to actively go be anti-racist and try to end a problem. And then somebody shared a meme the other day, and it hit me because I always liked the part. But in the Lord of the Rings movie, where Merry and Pippin are trying to convince the tree people to come fight in the war, and I'm gonna butcher it. They like say it doesn't concern them or something like that, and he says, "But like, you're part of this world," and it's real touching. And he says it and he screams and gets me all excited. I think that's in the Two Towers. I don't know. I thought that was very moving. But anyway, so I'm going on a tangent here. But in short, there are a lot of ways to help and a lot of ways to contribute and to end racism. And the bare minimum number one place to start is to be anti-racist, not just non-racist.
Yeah, totally agree.
I hope that's where you wanted to chip in the heavy part of the episode. I hope that's where you wanted to take that here.
Yeah, I mean that's as heavy as I care to get because I feel like live these things every day. It's hard, black, the race talk isn't a myth, right? Like my parents had it with me, their parents had it with them. I have it with my daughter. I got to explain like, and I'm pretty blunt with her. It's just like, we're watching the news. You're like, why are they rioting? Why are they protesting? Um, I'm like, well, because of this and this and this. Because a cop. This is my 7-year-old daughter. Because a cop killed a black man just because he was black. Um, and then, and the sad thing is, we watched TV and someone wore the shirt, I can't breathe. They're showing basketball. She's like, oh, they must have made those shirts because of that guy who said I can't breathe, who the cops killed. And I said, actually, that's from like 2014, because another person was killed by cops, and that person said I can't breathe. She's like, so they've done this before. I'm like, yeah. Um, so things are.
Imagine having to break that. I'm saying imagine to not you, because obviously you did, but I can't imagine having to break this to a 7-year-old human, and then like that's heartbreaking to think about. But um, man, I don't know how I'm.
Yeah, so why it's Avatar related is because I think if Mike and Brian want to I don't know, make more positive depictions of Black people in media, which I'm not saying they have to do at all, because Avatar is a really diverse show. They excluded all white people from the show. But I'm saying if they wanted to add in a couple Black characters, they could do that. I think they could if they did that. In my fan cast, I made Jet like black, like not, not although jet black makes sense. Um, um,
Did you have you thought of that before? Or is this the first time that crossed your mind? Because it's the first time it
for
crossed
example,
my mind.
yeah, um, yeah. So they could do that. They can make other characters, but if I was them, I would make because I still want to have so much respect for the Asian culture that they did there. I think if you're going to make any characters, if you want to change the race of any character, I think they should come from the Earth Kingdom, because the Earth Kingdom is so vast that it makes sense
It's kind of a low
that
hanging fruit for where there would just be opportunity.
yeah. Like I cast Morgan Freeman as Bumi
Let's do it.
because he looks a lot. A lot of people, for white people,
He's almost like too muted of a personality for Boomy, though. I feel like
but that would let him stretch. To me, that would be the fun part
let
of
him
it,
stretch
is
his
seeing
acting
him
chops.
be. Yeah. Someone recommended. Oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Dang it. Someone recommended um, the guy who plays Green Goblin on Spider-Man.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe for King Boomy. I'm like, holy crap, that's genius. Because he has that sort of like gravelly voice or gravelly high voice that he can do. It'll be so boomy.
Yeah, but I have a really hard time separating him from, like, he's always crazy bad to me. He's never crazy good. Like, he's always kind of
That's
the out
true.
there
He is
bad
usually crazy,
guy.
yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't typecast, but I don't know. Whatever, I'd watch it.
Yeah. um, yeah. So all right. So we'll go over some other changes that we think could possibly happen within the show. Shawn, have you thought about any other changes besides changing the characters' sexual orientation or race?
Only what you mentioned in your video, and I gave your video a rewatch a couple hours before we started here, which we will definitely make sure that's the top video. Oh my goodness, sorry. We'll make sure that's the top video in the description. But I don't know that I have anything else to add other than that I was pretty interested to have these two specific subject matter talks with you about changing his sexual orientation or adding more Black people or more race in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing I would like to see change um, is just make like a couple things. One, just make Fire Lord Ozai a little bit more dynamic of a character. I still want him evil for evil's sake, but I want him like I don't know, to be like maybe really smart. Like he feels like he needs to use machines and stuff, get rid of the spiritual mojo aspect stuff of the world, and dive even more into machines and stuff that would put him in opposition to Iroh. That makes him a little bit more calculating, a little bit more ingenious with his like inventions and stuff like that. I still want him evil for evil's sake. I don't want a redemption arc for Ozai. He doesn't deserve it.
They already they already touch on it a little bit. It may not be quite as far as interesting as yours, but a little heavier on some of the political aspects of cultural expansion, I guess. That sounds too nice. Imperialism, I guess.
Yeah.
But some more hard politics in there. They touch on it a little bit, or Zuko touches on it a little bit at a minimum. So they could explore that further. And I don't know, it's something that feels tangible and relatable to real life and real history.
Yeah. Another, I think, really important thing to do, which we talked about briefly, is I think Aang definitely needs. Aang doesn't have a character arc, really. And I know a lot of people are like, what the heck? Because character arcs, I think you deal with, the character deals with the lie that they tell themselves. Aang doesn't really do that. Like, Aang's lie that he tells himself before is like, I don't want to be the Avatar. I'm not the Avatar. Well, episode 3, he comes to terms with that. That's not like a huge story figure. But that's okay. Not every character needs a character arc. And so if you're not going to have a character arc, though, you need to have more influence on everyone else around you. So I would like, Aang to be more of an influence on the characters around them, changing them, molding their character arcs, like whether it's Zuko, whether this whole world, right? Like that final battle that we talked about before, Aang is dealing with should he kill the Fire Lord or not for his own reasons. I was gonna say selfish reasons, but they're a little selfish. Um, for his own selfish reasons, but should his decision be more so because he feels like the world doesn't need that? He feels like the world needs, instead of an all-powerful smiting avatar, the world needs a loving avatar. It's funny because it sounds very biblical in that sense. Like instead of Old Testament, the world needs New Testament.
I think I feel like I'm about to commit sacrilege here. First I will say I do. Well, it gets worse. No, I agree that Aang doesn't have the greatest character arc, but I will say that he eventually develops another lie or another sort of conflict that he has to overcome within himself when he is fighting that battle between, basically everything from the Guru onward, where he feels like he has to choose between, loving Katara and being a good avatar, or killing, being what how am I trying to say this? Acting as a channel to the spirit world, or what's the word that they use? I keep wanting to say ambassador of the spirit world. That's not right. But the bridge between two worlds, and also being of this world. Like there's that constant dynamic, and I think a lot of his arc later on comes from that. But I also think his arc in the movie is at least like more visible and stretched out.
It actually is,
and that's really hard to say out loud. It at least at a minimum there's like a begin and an end to his arc in a way that offers that, though, right? I'm not saying it's good.
And I remember seeing M. Night try to defend this, which I get it, because he had Aang able to go into the Avatar state like that. There was no ocean spirit and stuff like that, and he was like, "Well, one thing, they already did this they already did like a big giant fish monster thing in a Miyazaki film. He didn't want to repeat that, and he was like, well, Aang needs to go on an arc here, and M. Night's defense, Aang doesn't go on a real arc in season 1, because he doesn't go on any arc, but he doesn't have to go on an arc. But because he goes on that, and also, so now I'm going to go against M. Night. That negates the growth later into like mastering the Avatar state, things like that. Like, imagine if Aang. Oh, we should do a video on this. Like, what if he? No, maybe we shouldn't, because then it's making the movie valid.
I regretted bringing it up even here, but I was like, what?
We should.
It's important though that we talk. If we can't have uncomfortable conversations here,
how would the sequels be? That's what because if Aang already mastered the Avatar state, it becomes, once you master the Avatar state, that's game over. You're the most powerful thing in the world, and you can access it like that.
I would agree to do those videos with you, but on the one contingency being that they became like the direct-to-TV movies, like different director, direct-to-TV, like we got a whole world of changes that we can make, like the quintessential crappy cash grab sequel, direct to TV
okay.
style. That is the contingency, and if we can do that, then yeah, I'll do that video with you. Got the whole world of schlocky possibility at our fingertips. But I do, I do think I disagree in a little bit, just in that Aang does have more arc, and I still don't know how I want to word it, but kind of trying to break out of the dichotomy between trying to be a good avatar and be a good air nomad, or.
But like he doesn't change though.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't change. He kind of
he deals
sort
with
of
changing.
he kind of breaks the whole mold. He kind of does his own brand new thing. It is the change. Like the whole time he's trying to decide one or the other, or feel out one or the other, and in the end he just like, nope, I'm gonna do it my way. Actually.
Oh yeah.
But maybe not. The point is that Aang does not have a real standard like. You gotta. Zuko's the quintessential arc, and then Aang's got like no real arc. There's no real upward momentum throughout. I agree with that part.
Yeah. And I think the only other thing I would want that some people don't want is just more Iroh, more backstory of Iroh. I want to see his son die.
But it sounded really dark, but I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
More Iroh. I suppose there would be like we could probably pick certain side, like would it be great to hear a little more of what Haru and Jet have done off screen or things like that, like side characters that are generally popular and entertaining, to get a little more of their backstory if time permitted. I'm always game for that kind of stuff, even if I don't like Jet. I still want to see more. But you're getting quite a ways down into the weeds there.
Yeah.
Either way,
but I think that's pretty much it.
I wanted to make sure we covered it all because I may have interrupted you on accident, but when talking about potentially adding race, and we briefly touched on the Earth Nation for adding race in general. I don't know if there's any other thoughts you had on there that I might have accidentally cut off.
No, not really.
So I know it kind of counts.
If I was casting, I would make Bumi black and Jet black, and I had this thing where I made Stephen Colbert the Earth King. Oh, that's a little weird. Might be confrontational there. Not confrontational. Whatever word I can't think of. But just because I think Stephen Colbert looks like the Earth King. A lot of people want Nicolas Cage for Toph's dad because he does look like him if you look it up. If you just look at it,
I don't need to look it up. I know my mom is maybe the largest Nicolas Cage fan.
But if you just look at if you just Google the picture, you're like, oh crap, yeah, it does look like Nicolas Cage.
Toph, what, where? It's a terrible impression. Don't ever repeat that.
That's a much better impression than I would have done.
I'm telling you, I'm a huge. Wait, let me rephrase that. I'm not a huge Nicolas Cage fan, but I buy multiple Nicolas Cage products every year for a birthday and a Christmas and a Mother's Day and every other holiday in which one would give his mother a gift. It's always Nicolas Cage something or other. I know it kind of like it's essentially white people, but I was trying to find a way to incorporate like Australian, like pure outback, just great accents, voices. And my first thought was maybe the swamp people. Can the swamp people be Australian? I want
this is
some of that voice acting in there.
Gosh, I feel like saying something, but it's such a cliche.
Would have involved
Sokka and his boomerang. But
I just thought I was honestly thinking, which there's probably Australians that are like, Shawn, this in itself is ignorant, but I was like, Australia, crocodile hunter, swamp people, and so that's probably not a good way to think. I don't condone that, but in my head it sounded entertaining. So let's do this. No, I didn't have anything else to add. I was just afraid I had interrupted and accidentally moved the conversation when we weren't done. But Earth Kingdom in general is the easiest choice to add more to. I mean, landmass wise, it's like 70% of the total physical land available. It ain't even fair.
Like, how did the Earth Kingdom not take over the Fire Nation?
just too spread out to like maintain a singular strong defensive structure or something. I don't know. And they're earthbenders. That should be like the best defensive mechanism that you could have would be earthbending. Wouldn't it? Like you have an endless supply of walls. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, I think technology had a lot to do with it.
I know it, but yeah. Well, good thoughts, and you know what? It wouldn't. Not that we're saying that Brian and Michael would do any of this, but it wouldn't surprise. I don't think us, and maybe most Avatar fans. I don't think it'd surprise any of us if they came out with any of the things we just said, or something totally off the wall that we weren't even thinking of, and then we looked back and appreciated just how awesome that was. So, yeah.
No.
Good luck, Brian and Michael. We're setting expectations real high for you, and I'm sorry about that. Not too sorry, but a little sorry. And, well, in that case, any other points you want to touch on in particular?
Nope.
Me neither. But thanks for sitting with us through this episode here. If you can't have some uncomfortable conversations or take the right positive lessons away from this show or within this podcast, well, something's wrong. So thanks for having these talks with us. We know things are crazy out there. In the meantime, Chris, looking forward to watching Legend of Korra, and I keep resisting the urge. Every day I see it, and I'm like, I could watch that right now, but I'm not going to do it, because I'm going to finish the comics, even though that means reading books. But soon, I just wanted to put it up here, because soon we will hop onto a regular Korra schedule. But I can think of at least, I don't know, 3-4 other episodes, depending on how we want to split the comics, before we get to that point. So I'm getting pretty excited.
Good. I've already started my rewatch of it, because I can't wait. I watch Korra and Avatar too frequently for this podcast for me not to just lap myself watching it.
I want to retain some innocence, so I'm going to try really hard not to.
Yeah, no, you should wait.
I really
savor it.
Savor it. There was another part where another John, when we were talking about somebody being gay when you were talking about Sokka being gay, but that it didn't necessarily feel right to his character, and I was thinking of John Mulaney. And it's a bit like, John Mulaney, gay? I'm talking in Google. He's talking about, because he's like, you get married, and then they wouldn't say it anymore. They'd still say it. So, yeah, thanks for sitting with us through this episode. Hope you enjoy some more of these kind of one-offs, and eventually some comic episodes before we get to Legend of Korra. I will do my best to wait, and I'm going to keep reading those comics. So far, so good on that front. In the meantime, my name is Shawn Shaler. That's Chris Ford, a.k.a. The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. And don't forget we have social... Well, you clearly haven't forgotten, because we actually have people liking our Facebook page. So Last Podcasters, or Last_Podcasters at Instagram and Twitter. And a Facebook page called Avatar The Last Podcasters. Soon to be The Great Divide. Thank you for watching us today. And we will talk to you next week. Have a great week.